It's a matter of inspiration and joy to recollect revered Swami Ranganathananda Maharaj's Reminiscences in Mysuru. We're fortunate to be in Mysuru many times during his visit from 1982 to perhaps 2004 or 5. Swamiji was very fond of Mysuru, and whenever he used to come, we used to have encounter with him on many occasions, and I have served him on many occasions during his stay in Mysuru study circle building, which he himself built many years ago. Swamiji once told me during his visit to Mysuru, when I asked him, Maharaj, please tell us what are the details or the way in which we have to serve you during your stay next 2-3 days. He suddenly and immediately responded, see, you don't have to do anything about serving me like you serve others. Only take care of my food. I have a very sensitive and weak stomach, and whatever the specific food I have asked, please see that that is given in the kitchen or whenever I am to take food here. Nothing else. I have this building we have built many years ago. I am familiar with every latch, every nut, every bolt of this building. You know, there is a made in England sister. Did you notice it? Yes, Swamiji, we have noticed it. So this building, whole thing was built and planned. I am very comfortable. I feel very homely here. Only you please take care of my food. This is one conversation I had with Swamiji. Then, after the stay, when he was about to leave Mysuru, I was standing beside the car where he was sitting in the front seat. And from that front seat, the shrine temple was visible, and then there was a garden in front of the shrine, and some garden laborers were working, and there were 1 or 2 children were there, laborers' children. When he was about to leave, take off by car, he said, he took out from his pouch few chocolates and told me, and he brought the hand out and I held in my hand the chocolate that he has given. But she told me, this is not for you. See those laborers' children who are all working there? Can you give it to them? Swamiji, definitely I will give it to them. Say they might not have seen these chocolates and like that, and they deserve to be given this chocolate. Will you give it to them? So I said, definitely, Swamiji. So then he left. And this indicates how at every little point, every particular things which he was doing, so there was a definite purpose. His intellect was always luminous and aware of the situation, what he has to do at every particular time, and he will attend to it with such attention and such application of the intellect. That is what we have seen in Swami Ranganathananda. Once in the night class, we were asking him, Swamiji, nowadays many saints and many other spiritual luminaries, we have to share the stage. And we don't know sometimes how we have to, our approach, how we need to conduct, whether we should share a stage with them. So many leaders of other spiritual community, he told, you know, that famous teaching, Samavaya eva sadhavaha. Samavaya eva sadhavaha. That has been the time-tested teaching of Sanatana Dharma. Concord and not discord. Concord and not discord. This should be our approach. What if other saints and other religious leaders are there? You do share, if you have to share, unless they are very controversial and all. And you have to say what you have to say and wish them learn to live in harmony. But you need not run behind them. We have Thakur, Mother, Swamiji's teaching, which is Vedanta is there, Gita is there, everything is more than enough. We can take an idea from anybody, but we need not run behind them. But have that kind of a samatva and balance whenever you approach any situation, any person. This is what he advised us. One more conversation I recall. Night time we used to make his bed before he goes for the rest. But before that we used to talk for a while. Then he had a belt which is made up of the old dhoti, which is folded and wrapped, which he used to tie around his waist as a belt. Then I suggested Maharaj, instead of this belt, Somanathanji is wearing a particular type of leather belt. Will it not, more suitable than this kind of a cotton belt? He suddenly exclaimed, holding that cotton belt in the hand, he told us, see, with this cotton belt on, I have gone to various countries all over India, and it has served me so well. It is so very easy to use it. It is so soft, and it is made out of waste. What an economy, you see. Why should I need a belt, leather belt? I am content with it, not because I have to be content. It fulfills all my need, and it is so easy to wear and make and get one. So why go for? So this is what, to be content with whatever is suitable and right, and no extravaganza in anything. So this is the great sadhu quality we saw in Maharaj. Content in a simple cotton belt, even if somebody suggests him to use something else. Another day, especially during such night conversation, before he goes to bed in his room, two, three of us used to sit and talk to him. Suddenly once he told, see, I am a village boy who came to Mysuru from such a remote place of Kerala. When I came, I was not knowing the distinction or difference between a check and a draft. I was such an innocent village, simple boy. But After coming here, we learned by experience, by our own, as we grow, we learn many things. Now I can go to any complicated city in the West, live there, and understand all the ways of living in the West, and then manage my life very effectively, very easily. See how a village boy can get transformed. I came here, first learned cooking, did cooking, but I was interested in knowledge. Whenever we used to play volleyball and all, if there is a gap, one team will play. When we sit aside, I will take a sloka of the Viveka Chudamani. Without wasting time, even during the play, I by heart said the Viveka Chudamani. Though our mind should be set on acquisition of the right knowledge, he told. And another interesting incident, he told that those days were financially ashrama was not doing that well, and there was so much of poverty. To get funds was so very difficult. He told many times in a week, 2 or 3 days in a week, he used to go to the city, to the Santepete, and go to the merchants and then ask for the donation. It is 1 anna, 4 anna, 2 anna, sometimes something in kind, rice, this and that. I put everything in a bag, and I used to put that bag loaded on my back and used to walk. That CFTRI, when you come, it is almost a hillock. The negotiating road, it was quite steep. Even with the loaded material on the back in a bag, I used to walk the CFTRI steep road. I used to negotiate. Sometimes I used to get cycle. But with the cycle, I could not negotiate that CFTRI steep up. So I used to stop the cycle and then walk along the cycle. Sometimes I negotiated that steep riding on the cycle also. So this is how, with great difficulties, we used to manage the ashrama, going around the city and collecting whatever the donors give those days. One more incident I recall. One day in the morning I was walking with him from the Mysuru Ashrama gate to the temple side, and like that we are going to and fro. Suddenly he remembered when we came near the gate. See, from this gate up to the ashrama, those days, there was no proper road. It was full of undulation, grass and weed and all that. I hit upon a plan that day, that today, after the breakfast or some time, I will work over this place and make a road from gate to the ashrama, so that everybody can walk without any difficulty. I wanted to make a very good leveled mud road. So I took my breakfast immediately and then started the work. And I worked from morning 8 o'clock till afternoon 3 o'clock continuously, so that we can have a nice road. And by the time I completed my work around 3 o'clock, this Shamanna, who was studying in intermediate here, he came from that gate. Then finally, for last 10-15 minutes, he helped me a little. Then I saw the road being made, then went to the the room and had a good bath, had my food, and came back after the food to see the road again, the newly made road. I derived such a great joy. Like Sri Ramakrishna, you telling that parable, farmer who is getting the water from nearby area through a small channel which he will dig and get the water to his field, and when the water comes it will make some sound, kulu 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 sound, and he enjoys that sound. Like that I was enjoying this, looking a look at this from the gate to the ashrama, a new beautiful pathway. This is how he narrated the those days they worked. Actually, Mysuru Ashrama was first in an earlier weaver's lane, perhaps in 1925. After a few years, it came to Diwan's Road. Presently, it has become a Shushruta hospital. And from Diwan's Road, Ranganathanji built the present ashrama, which is in Yadavagiri. The land was granted by the municipal corporation, and funds were collected from there. The study circle building, the present study circle building, which is the first training center of the Ramakrishna Mutt and Mission those days, and Swami Bhuteshanandji, Hiranmayanandaji, Hitanandaji, Nikhilanandaji, they were all studying there the scriptures, and Subramanya Iyer, they used to call perhaps uncle, he was the teacher of the Vedanta. The great Subramanya Iyer was a great teacher of Vedanta. But Ranganathanandaji, we had taken him, myself and Sureshanandaji, one day, recently, maybe in the year 2001, or it may be 1999 or 2000, something like that. There is a school called Sadvidya, where Swamiji, in that school, Sadvidya school, Swamiji delivered talk. Actually, Swami Vivekananda also stayed there during his visit at the Niranjana Mutt, which was earlier was Anathalaya, just behind present Sheshadri house building. So that entire circle, Diwan's Road, where we had our ashrama, present Shushruta hospital, and the place where Swami Vivekananda lived, the Niranjana Mata, and this Sadvidya school where Swamiji delivered talk. So we had requested Ranganathanandaji to inaugurate the plaque at Sadvidya school. This is the hall in which Swami Vivekananda delivered talk. It is mentioned in that slab, and nearby in the Niranjana Mutt he stayed. Like that, these are recorded, and there was a very good, beautiful celebration, and he unveiled the that particular slab plaque, and we had a very good talk delivered. He spoke so spontaneously, it was such an inspiring talk, and he placed the summary of Swamiji's teaching so beautifully. After that, the very next day, he told, this is the area where we had gone, and the ashrama was in the next Diwan's Road. If you take me, I can show you the old ashrama. The very next day after this program, Sureshananji arranged a vehicle exactly sharp at 9 o'clock, and myself, Swami Sureshanandaji, and we all went to that particular area. And that old ashrama, which has not yet become Shushruta Hospital, the old structure was as it is. Its owner was some distant relative of our old student. So we got the old dilapidated, the house was shut for many years, got it opened. And Ranganathananda entered, we all entered that old house, which was our ashrama for about maybe 5 to 6 years in the Divans Road. And as he entered, he was filled with so much of nostalgia. First, as we entered, he told, there is a parapet in the entrance, which is just 2 feet high, a sitting place. He sat and showed. This is how those days, this was a very kind of a quiet place, not much movement. So, how we used to stretch our leg and sit at the entrance of the ashrama, he showed. Then he said, this is the place where Puttappa, the Kuvempu, who was like a Rabindranath Tagore of Karnataka, came and joined and became an inmate of the ashrama. Siddheshwaranandaji brought him here. He was not keeping well. He served him, took care of him. And it is here in this place Puttappa came and started staying with us. Then he entered the shrine. There was a door with a semicircular top and all that he showed. This is to be the shrine. And here we used to worship and all that he showed. And then we negotiated out of that main hall to the backside of that old ashrama. And there was a kind of a pathway with a stone pavement. And there was one huge old Terminalia badam tree. And he told, here under this tree, I took 1,000 sit-ups. One day I thought, how many sit-ups I can take maximum? I said, I will take 1,000 sit-ups. See, he continuously showed, here in this place, I tried for 1,000 sit-ups and I succeeded. That is what he told, standing in that very, very place. Then we came out, and neighborhood, he remembered who is going to be the earlier neighbor. He went to that house, the immediate neighbor, found out who are their grandparents who lived there. He inquired with the people there. Then he also told, nearby there is Nakasturi. He was the inmate of the ashrama, used to come once in a while. Nakasturi also stayed here in the very same place. After that, we went from there to the Weaver's Lane, where he wanted to show us the first ashrama, which was started in 1925. But when we went there, unfortunately, that old ashramas of Weaver ashrama building is demolished, the frontage. The part was there, and similar one more house was there next to our old ashrama building. We entered that house, and he told our ashrama was somewhat like this, and it was like a chawl, and we entered the home. That person came. Surprisingly, that person was a close devotee of Siddheshwaranandaji. He was aged, and he told Ranganathanandaji Maharaj, this is not the ashrama, this is the other house. The ashrama is at the end, and that building is now recently, the frontage is demolished. But I am a devotee of Siddheshwaranandaji, and I have a photograph of Siddheshwaranji, and which he has sent from France. In the behind he has signed. He showed us Siddheshwaranji sitting, and the backside of that, in snuff-colored ink, Siddheshwaranji has signed and given the date. He showed us that photograph, and Ranganathanji was very much thrilled to hold that Siddheshwaranji's photograph in the hand. And then Oh, is it so? Then he inquired with him many more details about the earlier ashrama. That was the one. That is how then we came back to the. After visiting that, he went on telling us about the good old days, and we came back to the ashrama. Once, very humorous discussion took place. We were all there. Prabhu Shankar was a very great devotee of the ashrama, a Kannada literary figure, very close to Swami Ranganathananda, and who has translated Ranganathananda's book on Upanishad into Kannada. It's a big volume. He also interviewed him in the Akashvani when he got one award from Delhi, and after that we were in the ashrama. There was a free atmosphere, and Prabhu Shankar, Swami Ranganathanji, we were all sitting. He told Prabhu Shankar, see, in your Kannada, instead of ha, everywhere you say pa, pa, pa. In Kannada you say ha, where in Malayalam we say easily pa. Pa is, you can touch your front lips. Pa is so easily can be pronounced, and it consumes less energy. Pa, and instead of pa, ha. Why do you say ha? He told, why Tamil pal? In Kannada it becomes hal, halu. See, palo is so easy to say halu. Why should say halu and waste your energy? And then in Kannada they say hannu, and in Malayalam they say panam. Panam. No, fruit. Padam. Malayalam says padam. Everything starts with pa. Here you start with ha. Why this extra waste of energy? You are a Kannada man. You should somehow modify Kannada, make a modern Kannada. And every unnecessarily wastage of energy by pronouncing ha should be converted into pa. Can you do it? Swamiji, that is not possible. It is very much in vogue. Now we are all used to wastage of energy like this. So Prabhu Shankar kept it in that way. So like that, Raghunathanji will have many ideas, and he will simply go on telling us. There are a number of such tidbits of conversation, his movement, and the way in which he enters, he will talk, he will eat, and it is so very, very lively. One thing which we see in Ranganathananji is zest and the power, and the intellect is always alert, and sound common sense, and always concern for the poor. And he is very particular about the behavior of everybody, and his love for knowledge. These are the things which will come out during many of the conversations in one way or the other. And also he will tell many reminiscences about the olden days. Once Somanathanji told me that Swami Vijnananandaji visited the present Mysuru Ashrama. For the first time we heard this. 3-4 years of stay after the Mysuru Ashrama as a brahmachari, the first time we heard, we were all surprised. We were not knowing that Vijnanandaji visited this very ashrama, and this is sanctified by the touch of the direct disciple. Then Somanathanji gave the detail, but he didn't Then he told, Shankar Maharaj was also here. I was studying in intermediate, and Shankar Maharaj told me that Vijnananji is going to come. You come and take blessings. Take his blessings. But that is how I could come and see Swami Vijnanandaji. But you can verify it from Ranganathanji also, he told. Shankar Maharaj also, he told. Then Ranganathanji came to Mysuru, perhaps a month or two after that. And after the food afternoon, I went to his room, and whatever Somnathanji has said about Swami Vijnananji's visit to Mysuru, I placed it before him, and I requested Ranganathanji, Maharaj, I have brought a recorder, mic and all. Can we record your narration about Vijnanandaji's visit to Mysuru, so that the posterity will know that this ashrama is also sanctified by the touch of the direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna. What a great acquisition for the Mysuru ashrama, that all the future brahmacharis will know this is the place where direct disciple also came and visited and stayed here. All right. Why record? I dictate to you. You write down. I will sign. No recording. This is more authentic. I will dictate now. You take a pen and you record. You type it. I will sign it. So that is what he... See, everything, there is clarity. There is no vagueness. And direction. Everything was clear. So I just rushed back, got a paper, and he started dictating. And he narrated the whole thing, and he told, you see, Swami Vijnanandaji came here in the morning, had his food, and then in the afternoon he went to Chamundeshwari Hill on a car. Then I, along with few devotees, one T.M. Madhavan, he remembered even the initial of that mathematics professor Madhavan. I think I remember rightly, T.S. Madhavan. His grey Morris car, colored. We followed Vijnanandaji, but we were a bit slow. There was a gap. But by the time we reached the hilltop, Vijnanandaji Maharaj had already had a darshan of the mother, and he was coming back. We were a little slow. But when they were returning, we stopped our car. Then they told, we are continuing back. You have the darshan of the mother and then come back. So this is how we had the darshan and we came back. And he told that Vijnanandaji, afterwards, he was sitting in that particular front room, which is presently the office of Swami Somanathananji. In that room he was sitting, and I told Shamanna, Somanathanji, when he came in the evening, sees Swamiji is sitting there, go and do pranam. So Shamanna went and did pranams to him, and he was grave looking, and he got a little afraid. He had a huge coat with many pockets and pens on 2-3 coats, and he was sitting gravely. And Shamana went and did pranam, and he came out. That day evening itself, he had an early food, and he went to the station early. We saw him off in Mysuru railway station that day evening. This much Ranganathananji explained, narrated about Vijnananji's visit to present Mysuru Ashrama. So we have made a plaque, and we have written down everything, and below we have given the old picture of the old Mysuru Ashrama and Ranganathanji and Somanathanji's photo with their signature. It's documented, framed and kept there. This is another very important, very significant narration and anecdote that Ranganathanji gave us about the visit of Vijnananji to Mysuru Ashrama. One day in the training center, when we were in training center Belur Math, after our noon food, we all used to rush to Ranganathanji Maharaj's room. He used to stay in the Trustees building, perhaps the middle room. And we kept our plate out in the veranda, and we entered his room, some 3-4 of brahmacharis. At that time, there are a few sadhus standing behind his cot, 2 or 3, were discussing something, and Swami Ranganathananda was reclining on the cot, keeping his head on one side, supported by hand, like the Ranganatha he was sitting. And he was listening to those sadhus. Especially they thought that Ranganathanji would appreciate talking about the Shiva Vijnana Jiva Seva. So the 2 sadhus were telling about Swamiji, what about, how are we to practice the Shiva Jnana Jiva Seva, which is to be, this is the important practical teachings of Swamiji and Thakur. Like that they were talking. And they were telling many more statements about the Shiva Jnana Jiva Seva. And Ranganathanji was just reclining, and he heard sadhus talking so easily, so freely about Shiva Jnana Jiva Seva. Suddenly he sat up and told. There was a calendar with the date, and one corner of that calendar, there was Nilakanta Shiva. He called it Nanjunda Shiva. Do you see that Nanjunda Shiva, Shiva who drank the poison, his photograph there, with very blue neck? Do you see? You talk of Shiva Jnana Jiva Seva. If you have to practice Shiva Jnana Jiva Seva, you should be like that Nanjunda Shiva who can drink poison and give nectar. Nanjunda Shiva means who drank poison, but in return he gave nectar. Can you do it? Can you do it? Service to the people, Shiva Jnana Jiva Seva, is no doubt a great ideal, but you should be prepared, like that Nanjunda Shiva, to take all difficulties. Can you take all the difficulties? And unmoved by the difficulty, can you give back something good, something great, something? Can you give love in return to all difficulties which people place before you and pour over you? See, This is one thing which we should learn. He told that strength is necessary, courage is necessary, ability to face difficulties, accept difficulties and conquer difficulty is necessary if you have to practice Shiva Jnana Jiva Seva. Like that Nanjunda Shiva who drank poison and gave Amrit. This is what we heard Ranganathanji suddenly retorting when people talk, though it's a familiar, he is very fond of that Seva and Shiva Jnana Jiva Seva, but he wanted to drive home the challenge, the difficulties involved in that, to make us aware, to prepare our mind about to how we can really practice Shiva Jnana Jiva Seva in the real sense by accepting the difficulty. It is not going to be an easy cakewalk. Shiva Jnana Jiva Seva. There are difficulties on the way which needs to be surmounted, conquered and accepted. This is a very famous incident which I remember, very significant observation of Swami Ranganathanji about this seva. So he narrated us how he took a walk all the way to Srirangapatna, BR Hills, which is about 70 to 80 kilometers away from Mysuru. He walked up the hill and had the darshan of that Biligiri Ranga and saw the tribal village and then came back to Mysuru walking. It took him perhaps 2 days to go and come, and he narrated us this incident. One more incident he told was how he went to Shivada Samudram all the way. That was the first hydroelectrical project in Karnataka and perhaps all over India. Perhaps that is the first hydroelectrical project. And the water was torrentially flowing on one direction. He suddenly seeing that water rushing in such speed, he thought, can I swim against this water? And he really told us that he jumped into the water and for a quite a length he swam against that strong current. Fortunately nothing happened. He said afterwards, when it was too strong a current, he came on to the bank and came out. So Ranganathanji always had the spirit of adventure, to conquer nature, go on a long walk, go on hills. And this is how this encounter with nature and going to solitude in remote places, going all the way by walking, was a part of his early monastic life in Mysuru. This is what he narrated once during the conversation. Another day he told us that, he had seen the hard, difficult days during his early boyhood and even after joining in the ashrama. So he has seen so much of poverty around. So that's why he always wanted something to be done for the poor and the downtrodden. So service to the poor was always uppermost in his mind. And that is why that Swamiji's concern for the poor, he used to mention in many of his lectures, feel my children, feel for the poor, feel until your heart stops and brain reels. Then you think that you go mad, then comes the indomitable energy and none can resist you. These words of Swamiji, I hardly read. I heard from Ranganathanji 2-3 times. And this somehow got into our system. He was very fond of quoting this. And another thing which I heard often quoting was, do you see your next door neighbor living a life worse than a brute? Can you sleep? Can you sleep? He used to ask. The third quotation which we heard from him was a shloka from Bhagavata. In every lecture, at least 2-3 lectures, once in Ooty also, I accompanied him to Ooty. There he told, Athamam sarvabhuteshu bhutatmanam kritalayam arhayet dhanamanabhyam maitriya abhinnena chakshusha. So he was very particular about maitriya abhinnena chakshusha. Can you be friendly with all? Can you be that kind of equanimity, that without any differentiation, rich and the poor, good and bad, you will be able to love all, serve all? This is what he used to say. And once myself and Suresh Anandji, we accompanied him to Ooty. Ooty, there was initiation. Number of people came and he initiated people. But there was one postcard from one lady who was a cancer patient, who was terminally quite ill. She requested if Swamiji can come to our house and initiate me and give me the Thakur's name, I will die peacefully uttering Thakur's name. He immediately told Radhakrishna Maharaj to find out what lady is there and whether we can go tomorrow. It is some 30 miles away from Ooty. There is a place where we have got that antibiotic factory. There is a special name for that. Anyway, next day, Radhakrishna was identified the place and sent a message to the lady that morning 9 o'clock we are going to come. You take bath, keep your shrine ready, and Swamiji is going to come and initiate you. So we all went. We also accompanied Swamiji to that place. And it's about 25 to 30 kilometers from our Ooty Ashrama. And there Swamiji talked to that lady in the drawing room, and he told, so you go to the shrine, pray and meditate for some time, and then she had finished her bath and she was ready, everything was ready, and Swamiji took some Ganga water, sprinkled on her and all that, and then initiated her. We all remained, myself, Suresh Anji, Radhakrishna Maharaj, we remained out, and he initiated her within 5 to 10 minutes, and we came out. And she was terminally ill, aged around perhaps 75 or 80. And such was his compassion. Just seeing a postcard, a request made by a very elderly old lady, he rushed to that place and initiated her. That was the great thing about Swamiji's compassion to the people. He was so compassionate. And then when we came back, we visited that factory which makes the vaccine. And that person in charge was known. Then we all went to that factory, and there's all factory workers. Sitting under a tree on a pedestal, Ranganathanji addressed those factory workers. That in charge of the factory told, can you talk to our workers, Swami? They are all mixed lot. Can you talk to... Then Swamiji really, in that lawn, there was a tree with having a pedestal. He sat on that pedestal. About 30, 40 workers sat around. He spoke to them in mixed Badaga, Kannada, and bit of English. He was trying to speak to them, and we all heard him. How any situation, given situation, he will be at his best, and he will give his best. Though the language he was not familiar with the language, though there are some difficulties, he will stretch himself to give the message of Thakur and Mother Swamiji or serve the people, whatever may be the conditions. This is what we saw in Ooty. And the place we visited, which is about 30 miles away from Ooty, that initiating a cancer patient and visit to that antibiotic factory.